Hello guys, welcome to Kodak. Hope you're doing great. Once again, welcome to React.js complete series. In today's video, we are going to discuss and talk about some of React advantages and disadvantages. As we know, every technologies which we use in programming has some advantages and disadvantages. So, same with React as well. That means React also has some pro and cons which we are going to discuss in deeper, because those advantages and disadvantages will be useful when you are going to build your project. By considering those pro and cons, you can build your application in much more cleaner way, because you must be aware what are the pros and what are the cons, and if there is some cons, how you can get rid of those cons. So let's get started. At first, we are going to discuss what is React, not in too depth, but some basic idea of that one. I already have created separate video on what is React, so you can check that one. And after that, we are going to discuss some React pro and cons. At first, as we know, we use React for building user interface. So we can say React is not a framework, it's a library. So once we are using any library, we can use other libraries, other packages as well to build user interface. So React is all about building user interface. There are other libraries as well, which we can say React Native is there in the market, which is also managed by Facebook. So that one you can use to build mobile application, but mainly React, which we use, it's basically for user interface, or we can say web application. And after that, it's a great library, and it's a I can say one of the most powerful front-end library which we are using nowadays as compared to other, I can say, AngularJS and Vue.js. Now we are going to discuss some advantages and disadvantages of React.js. Now at first, React has some advantages, which is virtual DOM, reusable components, large community, SEO friendliness, easy to understand and easy to use, React developer tool, one-way data flow, and Redux. So these are all, I can say, advantages of React which we can see. At first, if we consider virtual DOM, as we know, if we run any web application, it create our browser creates a virtual DOM, or we can say DOM tree of our application, and it is really useful for any browser to understand what nodes are there and how the parent and child communication are working. So if I can give you the example, suppose this is my React application which is up and running. Now if I go to top one doc type HTML, now if I go to properties, in properties you can able to see this is the name, next, sibling, parent, and all these ones. Now if I go to HTML1, it also has children's nodes are there. You can say child nodes. If I just open child nodes. So what are the child nodes are there? Head, text, body, and one Grammarly, something is coming up. Now if I close this one, you can see head, body, and Grammarly is there. Now if you click on head one also, it must also has some child nodes, which is text, meta, text, link. So these are the child nodes are there, or we can say elements are there, tags are there. And inside this one, if you click on that one, it must contain some data which it has. Suppose if I open head one also, meta is there. Now in meta you can see there's some URL is there. After that, local name is there. So some data must be there, outer HTML. So this is how browser create a DOM structure of your application, and it is really useful for any browser to make any changes. Suppose if you are making changes to this particular meta tag, then browser will easily able to understand, okay, this particular node needs to be removed or updated. Now why React is powerful? Because it uses the concept of virtual DOM. What is virtual DOM? It is basically, it's a tree structure of XML, HTML or XHTML. In other words, a virtual DOM representation of document object model. However, this DOM tree is not enough that faster for React.js. Now in case of virtual DOM, what React do is, this one is the DOM structure which browser create. Now there is a separate virtual DOM which React create for itself. Now if you are making any changes in the UI, suppose if I'm making any changes, if I'm loading any component, if I'm passing any data, now what React do, it compare its virtual DOM with the updated one and the pre-updated one. Now by comparison, React figure out, okay, this particular or element needs to be updated in this real DOM. So we can say the DOM which is created by the browser, it's a real DOM. Now once React figure out, okay, this particular DOM on element needs to be updated, only that particular one will be get updated to the real DOM. And because of that, you can see there is no refresh in the page and it is much more faster. Now you must be wondering, we can go with jQuery, we can go with the Ajax. Yes, you can go with this one, but there has some limitation. You can only able to update or mutate to that particular page. Now if you are going for one page to another page, you are not able to manage that much content or that much data which you can able to manage by the React application. Now the another one is reusable component. Now you must be, or you have seen several videos or several tutorials, or we can say React is all about component. Why? Because each and every module or each and every section you create, for that one you have to create a component. I already have one React application. If you go to SRC components, now in this one I have created footer component, header component, sidebar, search bar. So all these component I have created. Now every pages I need to, or I am able to reuse those components, because I am not going to create header and footer for each component, or we can say each and every section or pages. Now this web application is up and running. I can say this one is up and running. So this is the landing page. Now if I'm going to another page, then that page must have some header, must have some footer, must have some sidebar. Now I can able to reuse those component in my next page. So that's why we call React is all about component. Now the third one is large community. Why we say? Because React has some, I can say, most useful or large community is there, because a lot of developers are connected with each other and they are able to manage, bugs and every discussion which, if you are facing any issue, because it is one of the most powerful front-end library in the market nowadays, and because of that it has large community. You can able to see a lot of videos, you can able to see a lot of tutorials are there which you can able to solve any issue if you are facing. SEO friendliness, this is the fourth advantages of React. So search engine optimization is equally important as the content itself. So SEO is also important, and it should be considered even before developing a website. Now even if you are developing any website, or if you are planning to develop any website, you must have to think about the SEO part. But why we are talking about the SEO part? Because if you are building any application, you want that application to be aware to the user. They must be know, okay, there is application, and how they will able to know? Because of the SEO part. Because if you search anything, suppose if you are building a blog application, blogging application, now you have uploaded several content, but if as a user, if you are searching any content, and if that search content is not mapping with what you have uploaded in your website, then you will keep uploading the content, but it is not mapping with the SEO measures. So you need to have that follow part, and SEO is, and React is somewhere As this is JavaScript library, so it is actually one of the best tool for creating SEO web application. And the fifth one is easy to understand and easy to use. As it is a library, so React is much more easy to understand and much more easier to use, because I have created other videos in which you can see how you can able to create component, how you can able to create other custom component, how you can map those components, how you can embed component into one and another. So these things you can able to check this one. So as it is a library, so you can say you can able to reuse other libraries as well, other packages as well, if now React doesn't provide the routing part. So for routing part you have to use another library or another npm package, and then through that package you can able to fulfill your routing part. And because of that you use routing part, you use some library for security purpose, some library for other purpose which you can find. Suppose if you want to implement the bootstrap part, for that one you can able to use libraries are there, because it is not very much restrict yourself to make any changes or to make anything work as per your need. But if you talk about the library part, they have some set of rules, set of data, set of scenario which you have to follow when you are passing data from one to another component, or we can say from one page to another page. So you are not allowed to make so many changes to that application or a framework, because you are so much restricted to that framework, and you have to follow that proper flow. Now the seventh one is React developer tool. As I am running this React application, so React provide developer tool for us. Now why it is useful? It is useful because if I show you the developer tool, one second, this is the component. So this React provides us the developer tool. You can able to search and you can able to basically you have that facility, so you can search this one and Google will provide you, and you can able to use this one. Now why it is useful? Now this is my application, header is app is there, app is the root component. After that I'm using header component, sidebar is there, footer is there. Okay, now inside header we are using search bar, as you can see through that parent and child node. Now in header component there must be some props. We will talk about the prop part. Prop is there, sidebar, in that one also some props are there. Whenever you are passing any data, whenever you are doing any manipulation, you can easily able to see the reflection and where the issue is coming and what other issues you are facing. So that changes you can able to, even now you can able to mutate anything, change anything. So that one you can able to make any changes through that one, and while it is getting rendered you can able to map, okay, from where your data is getting flow from one component to another component, from I can say props or through state. So all these things you can able to see in very cleaner way once you have application up and running. Now the other advantage is one-way data flow. Now React uses one-way data flow, either from component to view or view to component. As it is useful because when you are passing the data, it will go from view to component to make any changes to the component. Now if once the manipulation part is done, the data will be flow from component to view, and it is really useful because when you are making any changes you don't have to very much dependent on from data flow, because you must be aware, okay, I'm flowing data from one way, that means from component to view or view to component. And the other advantage is Redux. Why Redux is useful? Based on single page application, when there are multiple components sitting on one page and update dynamically without reloading the entire page. Now all this sound very simple and smooth, which is until your components start talking to each other. That means when the component we are start passing data from one component to another component. Let's say you have a web page and there are few forms component which contain large form and lot of controls. Few tables components are there, sidebar, header, footer, just like we have seen. Also you might want to update some header. Now we are passing some data and we want to update some header with a new record is created. Now here our table component has some dependency on the form component. So whenever we are creating a component, there must be some kind of dependency must be there when we are creating tables, when we are creating any components, as this make data unstable because there is lot of data flow is there and we don't know when the latest data will get rendered or not. So in this state, to make that all components are in sync, the latest data, we need to have a manager, or we can say we need to have one system, or we can say one package which we can use and manage our data. Now here the Redux come. Redux force component to avoid talking to each other directly or bring dependent on each other. Instead, components send data to Redux and it's responsibility of Redux to update the component with new data. This way components are always updated with the latest data available without having to depend on each other. So this is all about Redux, how it manages the data. Now we are going to discuss some cons as well, or we can say disadvantages of React as well. Lack of proper documentation. Yes, now the React has updated its documentation part. Now we can go with react.dev. Yes, react.dev documentation, I can say much more cleaner as compared to the previous documentation which we are using. But still it is not that much clear because every action or every component or every module and every state, they haven't described in that much depth. So sometimes it create an issue for us to manage those things, and that's where we follow or we go with community. And because they have large community, React has large community, and we go with large community and to get help of our issue. Speed development, that means React keep updating itself very fast, and sometimes if you are building your application right now, after few months or few days they updates those stuff, and again you have to make updation in your web application, and somewhere it is very much tricky to manage those things because they are not very much planned. Okay, after one certain year or certain duration they will update that part. Because of not having that one, they keep updating their stuff, and sometimes it become really difficult for developer to adopt those changes. Now JSX, as we know JSX, most people will consider JSX as a advantages rather than a disadvantages, and yet there are some people might find JSX as disadvantages. In simple term, JSX is a JavaScript extension that can make code more readable and clean. If you see JSX how it look like, because this is one in the JSX, because if you are using JavaScript, you are not allowed to write or add HTML, but through JSX we are able to make it work done. We are returning, we have div, we are returning header, sidebar component we are returning. So this is all how the JSX will look like. Seems like there are only upside route. It is a mix of HTML and JavaScript. JSX make React more difficult to learn, and that may are not very much friendly with some of the developer. So sometimes they find it very difficult to add HTML, but for me as a developer, I really don't feel as an obstacle because JSX allow us to add an HTML in our JavaScript, and which is much more easier for us to add any HTML without thinking how we gonna, because we don't want to follow create element, create root and all this path, because it is much more complex. Here you have to write clean HTML. Now problem with the SEO, yes, as we know JavaScript is a single page application. Now you will not able to see any render, or we can say no refresh in the page. Now if you are going from one page to another page, now you have product page, product detail page, product listing page. So all these pages are there. Now if you're going from one page to another page, there is no refresh in the page, only the content get changes. Now as the SEO part, Google always crawl your web application to get the pages. Now if Google is crawling your pages, now it only able to see the landing page. It will not able to see the product detail page, product listing page, other products page, because it is only dependent upon your action which you are performing. It is not get crawled very easily. So sometime or most of the time it is a problem with the SEO part. And fifth one is React based on third party packages. Yes, as it is a library, it is not a framework. As it is library, so we need to use other libraries to make our things work or to make our application up and running, because React doesn't provide the routing part. Okay, now if I go to another page, suppose we want to go to product detail page, React will not allow us. For that one we have to use router as a package in our React application. Now we have to use Redux to manage our states. If we want to sync our data from one component to another component, so for that one we have to use Redux. So in the same way, we have to use another packages or another libraries to make our complete application. So React only provides us the base. Okay, here is your base, and on top of that one use another libraries and make use of them, and then you can able to see your application up and running. So that means this is all about React advantages and disadvantages. I hope you like this video. Thank you guys. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you guys.